Okay. Where's my face? Where is it? Hello? Oh. Hi. I want to talk about a game. I just finished like a couple days ago. And okay. Sorry, I'm a little like nervous. So I apologize in advance if I'm like kind of weird. This is my first time doing this kind of stream, so but it's something I wanted to for those of you that don't actually know me that well, I guess my name is Maggie. I've been playing video games since I was like a baby. Got into my first MMO when I was like 10 or 11. My mom said that I could start playing my first MMO when I was able to actually like type on the keyboard and talk to people. Not that I ever really talked to people that much, because I was shy as fuck. Let's see. I've been out of college for a while now, but I actually do have a degree in game design. Believe it or not, that exists. Specifically computer game design, but I've done also stuff on like tabletop stuff too. Card games and things like that. This feels like an AA meeting. Oh yeah, it's like, oh hi, I'm Maggie. I don't know, I wanted to introduce myself a little bit. I wanted to be like, hey, I have a game design degree and I really want to talk about fucking video games, specifically Earthbound, since I just finished it. Because like with my streaming, so far all I've been doing is like playing game after game, and like I'll give a couple thoughts during like the credits and then we'll just move on to the next game, and I don't know, it's bothering me. Like I want to take more time to like talk about the game and like reflect on it and all that, because I just feel like I just go through these things and then I don't think about them ever again. Earthbound deserves a recap? Abso-fucking-lutely! Abso-fucking-lutely! It does, it really does. Oh my god. It deserves to be talked about. It really does. And if there's nothing I love more, is I love talking about video games. I fucking love talking about video games. I love talking about video game mechanics. I love talking about things like sound design and graphics and all that shit. Oh my god. So I'm gonna go off. Like, I'm just gonna fucking go off. I keep glancing over at my other monitor, so maybe I should like make my VTuber look at that direction. There we go. Anyway, yeah. I want to go off. Hold up, let me get a beer. Yeah. So yeah, this is like, people are more than welcome to chime in with whatever thoughts or anything like that. Yeah, but we're here to talk about Earthbound. If people are interested, then I would be more than willing to talk about like my experience in college with like the game design degree and stuff like that, but we'll leave that for something like a different thing if people are interested in actually hearing about like my college experience and stuff. Where do I start though? Where do I start? I guess the easiest college girl experiences? No, that's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. I don't know where I should make my VTuber look. Maybe just like in between my two monitors. I don't know. Look up in victory. Just set her like this. Or, no, actually I would have to reset myself looking down. And then when I don't know. Just look up in victory. Like, yay, we completed the game, we did it! I don't know, I guess... Where's a good place to start? It was a fun game, I really liked it! No, okay. Chapter 1. Well, the thing that I really want to start out with, I think, is the mechanic that stood out the most to me throughout the game, which was, a specific part of the battle system. And that is the rolling hit point meters. The fact that when you take damage, your hit points don't immediately go down to the number. They roll down to the number. And if you take enough damage to kill you, it rolls down to 0, and you actually have a chance to, like, not immediately die. And at first I was like, oh, you know, that's interesting, like, okay, like, that's a thing that's in the game, like, is that actually going to be relevant or not, you know? And then we came across the fucking tree on the way to, what was it, Happy Happy Village? The tree that explodes when you kill it and does enough damage to kill you. But your hit points stop rolling down at the end of the battle. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Is that all this mechanic's gonna be used for? But then later on, when you get more of the party members and stuff, you have choices that you can make. Like, you can try to end the battle quickly to stop somebody from dying, or you can even try to heal them, because healing will work and bring them back from actually dying before they hit 0, which I thought was really cool. And the challenge that comes with trying to heal somebody during a fight is the menuing. Like, you have to go and you have to select the heal, and then go through all the other stuff with all the other party members really fast, because otherwise the HP is going to roll down to 0 and that person's going to collapse. So sometimes it's a matter of, like, do I just try to kill the enemy as fast as possible? Do I try to heal? And if I'm going to try to heal, I have to avoid using certain attacks, like certain psychic powers, certain spells, because they take up a lot of time. And the HP still rolls down even when you're casting something. It doesn't pause at all, or anything. It does not stop. So that's why a lot of times when I decided to heal somebody in battles, I would just smash the button to have everybody just attack whatever was in front of them, in hopes that, you know, the enemy wouldn't do something. Even if the enemy did something like cast a spell, then I would have a chance to be able to heal. And, you know, I've never run into that kind of mechanic before with, like, RPG battles. Like, I don't know if it's specifically unique to Earthbound or if there's other games that have something like it, but that's the first time I've ever come across a mechanic like that. And it's something that really stood out to me, really added a lot more strategy to battles, and just the fact that if somebody takes enough damage to where they could die, it's possible to save them. And I really liked that a lot. And there's a lot of, like, panic. Like, somebody takes mortal damage and then you panic and it's like, oh god, oh god. Quick, do something, kill the enemy, heal them, do something. You know, it's easily the mechanic, especially with the battle system, that stood out the most. because it's something I've never really seen before, and I didn't know how it was going to play out. It was something that I thought at first might just be kind of gimmicky, but then it turned out to actually be something like really substantial and like a big part of the battle system. Okay. What else? Oh, what? Go on? What do you mean, go on? Um, you just want me to keep rambling? Because I can do that. I can keep rambling. That's exactly why I did this. I watched like 2 episodes. Oh boy. I mean, if you're ever planning on playing this game, I would recommend not watching, because spoilers, I'm going to be talking about the final boss. So I think you were here for the final boss anyway. Anyway, I guess no, the mom called him Googie. Googie. Sorry. There's also the fact that, like, unlike a lot of RPGs, there's really no random encounters in the sense that you see the enemies on the map. And this isn't like a new thing. It was probably new, like, back when the game came out. And you know, it was interesting how the enemies, they would, like, charge up to you and attack. And if you're facing away from them, they'll attack you first. But if you manage to get behind them, then you can attack them first. Which kind of reminds me of Persona series, where you can see the shadows and run up and attack them, and if they manage to attack you, they get an advantage. And if you manage to catch them off guard, they get an advantage. So I would say, you know, so the encounters are mostly, like, you can see them. You don't necessarily know what's gonna, like, you can see what you're going to fight, but you don't necessarily know if something's going to join it. There was a few parts where it's like you come out of a cave and you get thrown into a battle immediately because there happens to be something standing right there, and that was a little like, really? You kidding me? I'm just trying to leave this cave and you're gonna make me run into something right away. And it was also fun that when you completed a sanctuary, you defeated the boss, that the enemies would get scared of you in that dungeon. Like, they were like, oh fuck, you defeated the boss of this place, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I really like that, because it made it easier to be able to leave the area without having to kind of fight your way out. And also, if you're much stronger than they are, they will also run away from you. So, you know, just the whole, like, I don't know, random encounters that you can't see, like, they have their place in RPGs and stuff, but I think Earthbound, it was really cool to see the enemies, like, run around, and sometimes when they would just start coming at you, it's just like, oh god! Here they come! Sorry, I'm sipping tea, and, you know, you put anything in front of my face, and between my face and the webcam, and my face will freak out. What else? Let's see. I have like a list. I have like a list of a couple notes of things that stood out to me. Oh my god, you're gonna make me sit properly? What the fuck? Hydrate? I just took a sip of tea, but I'll take another. I don't know what I should go. Yeah, I could just go down the list. I guess relating to games that Earthbound reminded me of. Like how it reminds me of Persona with the enemies running around and how you can catch them by surprise or get caught by surprise. Earthbound also reminded me of Undertale for very obvious reasons. Because Undertale is very heavily influenced by Earthbound. And the second that I saw those flowers and Magicant, I was like, oh fuck, that's where Flowey came from. And just the general writing and tone of the game they're very similar as well. Reminds me of that kid from Super Smash Brothers. Yeah, what's that kid's name? Is kid's name like Ness or something? I don't know. But another game that I thought of when playing Earthbound was actually, it's another RPG. It's called Off. It's not a horror RPG. It's more like a surreal type. It's something I can play in the future if we want, because it's very unsettling at times and very interesting. But with Off, like Ness has a bat. The batter from Off, he's the batter. He uses a bat. Not even really a connection. There was some similar vibes with like the unsettling, like some of the unsettling stuff that had happened in Earthbound and just the general vibe of Off. And also in Off you get these friends. You get party members, but they're like these circle things, and they have their names are like Greek symbols, and so when I saw the Greek symbols for the psychic powers in Earthbound, I was like, hey, that reminds me of Off, because Greek letters. I don't know. It was just something I was constantly thinking about. Oh yeah, and the final battle where you just pray through the whole thing reminded me of the final battle of Okami, because I guess this is kind of spoilers for Okami too, but in Okami, during the final fight, you have everybody praying for you, for Amy, to win, to get her power back, and then she gains her power back and is able to smash the shit out of the final boss. Spirit bomb mechanic, yeah. And then with Earthbound, you pray through the final boss fight, and everybody prays for you and does damage to Gigas. So, yeah. Googie. Yeah, Googie. You know Googie. Let's see, something else. Oh, the general sound design of the game. Like, the soundtrack, obviously, absolutely bangin'. It's a very unique soundtrack. It's something that's very memorable. Like, I was watching another video yesterday, not at all related to Earthbound or anything, but it had Earthbound music playing in the background, and I was like, hey, that's Earthbound! Like, I recognize that song, just because, like, it's just such a memorable soundtrack, and it's lovely. The whole thing with the Soundstone, and you go to the sanctuaries, you pick up these melodies from the sanctuaries. Ness gets a memory of when he was like a little baby, and you go to the 8 places, you get all 8 melodies, and they all form like, I guess what would be the theme song for the game. And I don't know, I really, really liked doing that. Like, there's a lot of games in which it's like, oh, you have to collect these, like, keys to get to the final boss, or collect the Chaos Emeralds, I don't know. You know, where you have to collect everything to get to the final boss. But with this, like, you're collecting sounds, like, you're collecting melodies, which is, I don't know, I thought it was really lovely. And then when you get to hear the whole melody, it's just like the whole song, it's like, wow, this is really cool. Sorry, I'm like, I'm nervous, so my thoughts are everywhere. I guess with completing the melody would bring us to Magicant, which is the realm inside of Ness's mind. Where after you complete the melody, you just Ness freaking passes out. And you end up in the realm that's his mind, and you have to go through, and like he has all these like fragments of memories and things like that. And that was really, really an interesting area. The fact that when you spoke to a different NPC, like the background would change colors and that, it was very magical. I guess that's why it's called Magicant. I still feel bad for getting those 2 bodyguards of mine killed in there. But you know. And then there were some real funky enemies in there too. The lightning eyeballs and the molecule things. The enemy design in general is a whole different thing. But yeah, Magicant was really interesting. The fact that you had to face off against your own nightmare, Ness's nightmare, which happened to be that statue. And the statue being able to use the attacks that you can use. It's very like, you know, like, oh, fight the shadow version of yourself sort of deal. But it was just something Ness had to overcome, because when you overcame it, you get really powered up. You get all the sanctuaries give you the power. And you end up with a lot of psychic power and learning a new spell and drinking tea again, so my VTuber freaks out. I don't know, it was just a very nice, like, little bit of, I guess, character development, getting ready for that final battle sort of situation. But oh god, the enemy design. The enemy designs in this game, oh my god, they cracked me up. Like, they're hilarious. Like, half of the enemies in this game have fucking googly eyes. Or they just look ridiculous. You have the fucking Mad Duck. The Mad Duck. Mad Duck is the perfect example. And then you have, like, the fucking tent, the boogie tent that was in Threed. This tent that just suddenly comes alive and attacks you, and it's literally just like a giant face. And it's just like, what? I love the enemy designs. They're so goofy, and the game overall is kind of like, it's goofy, it's fun, it's like delightful. It's light-hearted, at least up until like the end of the game. Like, the game didn't take itself too seriously. At least, you know, not up until the end of it. And that's something that I really like because, I don't know, I'm the type of person that I don't like to be serious about things. Like, I like to joke around, I like to have fun. It's hard for me to be serious. But, like, the game knew when to take itself seriously, especially during the final battle. Which brings me to just Gigas and just the real turning point of the game. Like, the point in which it's like shit's getting really, really serious is, and the part that really made my stomach drop is when Dr. Andonuts is like, well, you guys, the thing that lets you travel to the past, it can't transport living things. And my stomach was just like, boom. It was like, oh. Like, um, Gigas is in the past. We have to go to the past to fight him, like, um, but we can't go back there alive. And then he continues to talk and say that everybody's sort of soul or whatever would have to be uploaded into a robot to send back there. And I was like, oh my god, these are literal children. Like, it's been fine up until now. There's been a bunch of, like, weird things that happen and stuff like that, and then suddenly it's like these poor kids. They don't know this time if they're actually going to be coming back alive. Like, he specifically says, like, I don't know if you guys are going to come back. And that was, like, damn. Like, we're really in it now. Like, I remember in my stream, like, I literally stopped for, like, a good several seconds, because I was just kind of, like, shocked. I was like, oh my god, like, this got really dark really fast. And that brings me into Gigas himself. And, oh my god. Talk about a fucking unsettling as fuck boss. Jesus Christ. You hear about him over the course of the game, like, oh, he's the great evil, like, you know, he's the big bad, he's the one that needs to go down, and it's like, okay. And, like, you run into the aliens that he sends out, and it's like, these aliens are kind of creepy. And I don't like dealing with them. And the music for the aliens is, like, it's just weird. Not weird in a bad way, but just, like, different and strange and, you know. And then, you know, but, like, up until the end, it's just like, okay, you know, he's the big bad, he's the final boss, whatever, like, typical. But then you actually approach him at the end, and it's just like, what the fuck? Are we walking around on intestines? Are we approaching a brain? What the hell? Like, okay, like, sure, fine, whatever, you know, this final bosses can be really wacky or weird or scary or whatever. And it's like, it was really creepy how the eyeball in the center or whatever was showing Ness's face and stuff. And then the focus of the first part of that fight is to take down Pokey. And then when you do, no, actually before that even, Pokey is like, Gigas is literally so big and evil, and he doesn't even. Is it a he? Is Gigas a he, or I don't know. Can't remember. I just refer to him as a he. But Gigas becomes so big and so powerful that he literally loses control of what he's doing, and he's not aware of what's going on. He doesn't know. He's just like literally become like this evil force that doesn't know anything. That not does that doesn't know that he's like out of control almost. Um and it's just like, oh, okay. Well, we should probably take him down. And then you defeat Pokey, and Pokey's like, well, you know, you asked for it. His form is gonna be revealed to you. And then you get into the first proper fight with Gigas himself, and it's just this background, and it's like these terrifying looking like faces that look like they're screaming, and the music changes. Would it even be considered music? Like, the first song was like your typical like final boss type song, and then when you actually face off against Gigas, it turns into something that's like really, really unsettling, really scary. And Gigas was really unsettling. Like, they did a fantastic job with that. I heard that Gigas was actually based off of Itoi's childhood trauma. And, oh yeah, like, if that's what you're basing a boss of, like, you fucking nailed it. Like, it's horrifying. And I really did not like that. I was just like, I wanted to end the battle, like, just beat him as soon as possible, because it was just like so unnerving, that whole fight. And then Pokey pops back in and is like, oh, you can call for help all you want, but, you know, blah blah blah. And then you start praying with Paula. And she prays for help from the people that you know. And it gives you guys strength, and it hurts Gigas. And as Gigas starts to break down and get weaker, like, the background changes, it becomes more chaotic, the soundtrack becomes even more unsettling and chaotic, and oh my god. Just thinking about it is like, that's nightmare fuel right there. Like, this game is rated E? Are you kidding? If a 5-year-old played this, they'd be traumatized. But yeah, you keep going, you keep praying, you know, Gaius gets more and more unstable, and then eventually Paula runs out of people to pray to. Like, she doesn't know of anyone else she can pray to. And her prayers get swallowed up by the darkness, and you're just like, oh god, is this it? Like, are we just screwed? So you try again, and then her prayer reaches you, the player. And it's just like, oh, me? And that's why you had to put in your name. I thought it was really weird how 2 times it asks you in the game to put your own name, and I was like, okay, what are we gonna use this for? What's gonna happen? And then at the very end, it's like, you yourself pray for the kids' safety. And I was like, fuck yeah, absolutely, I'm praying for their safety. These poor kids, they've been all around the world, you know, they had this whole adventure thing, and now suddenly they're fighting this thing that's the stuff of nightmares and is horrifying, and the final part of the battle gave me a headache because of all the flashing and the noises and stuff. Uh, like, Jesus Christ, man. But it was really powerful. And I think if you put any other name other than your own, that would that kind of would ruin or dampen that sort of thing at the end where you're praying for. Like, I just want you guys to be okay. I just want you guys to be okay. And then you beat him. And then all the robots are like trashed on the ground. And I was just like, no, you're not doing this to me, game. You're not killing them. And thankfully the game did not. Haha. Souls all returned to the kids. I thought for a second there that they might kill off Ness because he's like the main character, and you know, there's games that like to do that. But no, everyone is fine, everyone's okay, and it's like, it ends up being a happy ending, you know? And I like that nothing overly tragic. It didn't end in any tragedies or anything. Everything was like bright at the end. It was like you know, your classic happy ending, like good. No bad endings in Nintendo games. Well, you know, because there's a lot of games nowadays, and they're, you know, Final Fantasy's guilty of this too, where somebody fucking dies, or like in Persona, like not just Persona, but other games where like your main character dies. And it's just like, why? There's a lot of you know, there's just a lot of media out there where there has to be like some sort of like tragic ending or bittersweet ending or something like that, and I'm just like, why can't we have more happy endings in media? Like, I want more happy endings. I don't like walking away from a story being sad. Like, you know, I love the feel-good kind of endings, you know? Those are my favorite kind, honestly. But yeah, the overall... I haven't watched Game of Thrones, by the way, but I heard that the end of that was absolute shit. Not my opinion, but because I haven't watched it, but pretty much everybody's opinion is that the final season or whatever was really awful. But anyway, yeah, the final boss fight, the fight against Gigas, was, oh, how they kill everyone important all the time. Yeah, Game of Thrones has a lot of death. Like, there's definitely media where death and tragedy is like definitely appropriate for the story. The thing that I hate is when they kill off people for literally no reason. Just like the sole reason that they would kill somebody off is just to, you know, not for necessarily for the story or anything, just to make people like upset. That's the kind of thing that I hate. Shock value, exactly. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. This game did not have that, thankfully. But the final boss fight overall was very wonderfully done. It was not too easy. You know, I had some difficulties. Fucking Pooh was dead, like, most of the time, and I'm like, oh fuck, I can't revive him, and it was a good thing I stocked up on items before then, and I was fully prepared and all that. before going into it. But yeah, it wasn't too easy. It was not. I beat him on the first try, so obviously it's not hard or. Well, I wouldn't say it's not hard, but it's not impossible. It just has like the really right difficulty for the final boss, and like the right length too, and build up and everything. Because there's been some final bosses where like you come across them and they either go down so fast that it's like, whoops, it's dead. I guess I win the game. And then you're kind of like disappointed. It's like, wow, that was not much of a fight at all. Or there's other bosses that are like impossible. They take way too long to beat. And it's just like, you're just sitting there and you're just like, okay, when is this gonna end? Like, am I gonna be able to kill this guy sometime today and like finally finish the game? Like, come on. And it's like tedious. But no, Gigas's fight was very well paced and very just good. A very good final boss. Like, Gigas really leaves a good impression, well, not a good impression, obviously, but he leaves an impression on you, and you know, the fact that you can't comprehend the true nature of his attacks because he's just so like unfathomably powerful and all this was, you know, it was good. And for a while through the game, I was like, what the fuck is with all these aliens? Like, why? Why UFOs? Why aliens? And then you find out it's all Gigas' minions, and it's like, oh, that explains why they feel really out of place. Like, when you finally meet Gigas and you see what he is, suddenly it like makes sense. His minions make sense. Because his minions are also like unsettling and just very out there. What else? Let's see. Fucking another thing that I found really interesting in the game was the whole dinosaur segment when you were underground. And you were incredibly small on the map, just running around, and there's these giant fucking dinosaurs. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, what a wonderful design for an area. Like, having the camera so zoomed out so that the characters are really small, but the monsters are like what would have been regular size, but since your characters are really small, they look really huge compared to them. And I mean, they're dinosaurs, what do you expect? But I really liked that segment of the game. I thought it was really interesting. You move a little bit slow, which I mean is to be expected because it's like you're tiny and you're moving around in this big area. But, you know. And I still don't know what that one orb thing was that was floating around with the face, and I did not care to find out. But that area kind of scared me because of the fact that the dinosaurs were so, like, large. And I was like, oh fuck, like, I'm gonna get my ass kicked. But just the whole way that they presented the level was really interesting. Like, you're in this massive area with these big dinosaurs and you're tiny and you're just trying to run around and trying to get through it and everything. That was something I was not expecting at all. Let's see. What else? What else? Oh, the Runaway 5 and Venus and Tessie. What do they all have in common? The fact that you are forced to do nothing and to sit there and wait for that cutscene to go. There's no skipping through it. With the Runaway Five's performances, and every time that you take Tessie over to the lab. I know a lot of people out there would probably be like, what the fuck? Like, just get it over with, just fucking do it, you know, like with the flight paths in Warcraft, where it's like, I don't want to take the time and like fly all the way over there, I just want to be there, you know? But I think these kinds of moments in games where you're just forced to slow down and stop and just wait, I think they're important because it gives you a chance to like be able to stop and think about the game. Like when you're flying to a different place in Warcraft, it makes you, it's like, okay, what am I actually planning on doing? Like what's my plan? It gives you a break. It gives you a break. And, you know, people with video games nowadays, they're all like, go, 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 like we gotta go through this stuff as much as possible, fast as possible, but like it's important to have those breaks. Because if you're just going and going and going, like, that's not ideal. That's how you burn out. You know, it's just not any fun. I think it's definitely, like, the whole, like, stopping and smelling the roses, like, sort of thing, I think is very important. So, having the sections with the Runaway Five, that one show with Venus, the rides on Tessie, I think, while they might have annoyed other folks, and I'll be honest, there were times where I was pretty impatient too, but like, just, it's good that they have that. What else do I? Fucking Buzz Buzz. I'm still upset that Pokey's mom fucking murdered Buzz Buzz. What the fuck? I loved Buzz Buzz. I don't know what else to say. But Buzz Buzz was great. It was kind of your real introduction to what you would need to be doing and the story. You know, he was kind of like your mentor figure in the game. And then the fact that he got killed off is like, the fuck. I really liked him. I think as far as mentor figures go in games and the person that tells you what you need to do, I really like Buzz Buzz. I don't know, maybe it's just because he was like a bee that wasn't a bee, and he wasn't like a person, probably, like he was different, you know? The whole picture, the pictures throughout the game. Fuzzy Pickles! I really, really liked that a lot. Having the pictures taken. Because then you get the photo album at the end of the game where the credits roll and you get to like look back on your adventures, and I fucking loved that a lot. Especially since It's definitely the pictures that were taken during the game, because you saw in the one picture Paula was fucking dead. And yeah, she was dead at that point. And it was lovely. The only thing about that is I do wish that the other characters with you would have done some sort of pose of their own, instead of it only being Ness with the peace sign. I do wish the other characters would pose. But anyway, it also was really helpful in the fact that if you had the guy show up, like, you knew you were on the right track. Like, you knew that you were going where you needed to go, because he pops up at various points during the story. So he was very helpful in the fact that, like, I meet him and I know I'm going the right direction. I know that I'm doing the right things. The hint system, where you pay money to get a hint, I thought was very nice. It's a nice idea. I used it once, and the only reason I really needed to use it once was because for other parts of the game where I got confused, there was somebody in chat that was able to tell me what to do. Otherwise, I would have used the hint guy more for sure. And I like that the hints were not, at least for the one that I got, it was not overt. It was just like, there's something going on over here, you should check it out. Like, it wasn't telling you exactly what to do. It was exactly what it is, a hint. And the game in general, like, when you play a JRPG of any kind, there's like the expectation that it's gonna be unforgiving, grindy, and tedious at times, all this. But I never felt like Earthbound was ever grindy or unforgiving. Because I know I died a lot at the beginning of the game, but it was okay, because you would spawn, since it was the beginning of the game, you spawn back at home, you talk to your mom, you heal up, and you go right back out there. And you don't lose experience points, you don't lose items, the only thing that you lose is some money that you have on you. Which is why I did not keep I didn't keep my entire ATM stash on me at all times. Like, the ATM was really nice because, you know, you just carry a little bit of money so that if you lose it, you still have a lot in the ATM. The only times that became frustrating was if I ran into a merchant that was out in the middle of nowhere and I didn't have any money, but that very rarely happened. That only happened maybe like a couple of times, like you could count on one hand. Most of the time, when you encounter a merchant, there's an ATM nearby. And also the part at the beginning of the game where we fought Frank and his robot. I was surprised. Like, I beat Frank and then I died on the robot. And then when I went back over there, you start the fight on the robot. And I was fully expecting, like, to have to start the fight all over again, because that's always how that works. Like, if a fight's split into multiple phases, it's like, you know, if you die on the next phase, then you have to start over. But that wasn't the case, and that was really nice that I didn't have to do that. And even the enemies that were in the arcade that were blocking the way, they were also gone. So the game's really forgiving in the sense that if you die, there's some enemies that will stay gone, and you will be able to start battles from a certain point instead of the very beginning. the thing that makes dying really suck is the fact that you lose all your psychic power, and that if you have any party members, they're going to be dead, and you need to go to the hospital and revive them. That's a problem if you're out in the middle of nowhere. So it's in your best interest to keep people alive. But it's not throw your controller out the window if you get a game over. It's never like that. Because with the amount of money that you make fighting things, like, I clearly was never hurting for money at all. Except at, like, the very beginning when you don't have much of anything. That was the only time that I really had to actually, like, the beginning was the only time you really had to take the time to grind a little bit, just so you could purchase the items, like the weapon and stuff at the drugstore for the first boss. And that was the only time that I really had to grind. And even with the other characters starting out at a lower level, or in Paula's case, level 1, you don't have to, like, hang around and grind a lot. Or at all, really. The only reason I did it was just to make sure, it was just, you know, for making things a little bit easier on me and making sure that, like, Paula didn't die immediately. But it wasn't necessary. And everybody caught up to Nessa's level pretty quickly, too. Like, the general experience needed for levels and all that was very good. Like, the amount of experience that you get over the course of the game fighting enemies and stuff, like, excuse me. When I play, like, Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts, I would run into a problem where I wouldn't fight enough enemies, or I wouldn't run into enough enemies, so I'd end up really under-leveled for the next boss. But I never ran into that problem with Earthbound. There was just enough enemies, enough experience, where you were neither over-leveled nor under-leveled, which was really lovely. I think one of the only bosses we really had a problem with and that I really didn't like was the Kraken the first time that you face him. Had some control. Yes, you had some control on whether you wanted to face opponents or not, because since you're able to see them, you can just avoid them if you want. It's a little difficult to do so, and, like, the thing with avoiding them is, like, there's always the risk that when they come after you, they're going to touch one of your party members and you will get attacked first. But yeah, you could definitely run away from things, and there was definitely quite a few instances in which I was just like, okay, we're going around this guy. But the Kraken was the boss that, honestly, the worst boss, I think. And my reasoning for the Kraken being the worst boss is simply, he hits very hard. He's somebody you have to take down really quick, or you're just gonna die. Like, he's just... his attacks are just really strong. And that's not the only... like, that's one thing. Like, okay, fine, like, this boss's attacks are really strong, you know, you have to take it down quick, like, okay, sure, whatever. But it's the fact that you have to go through a whole cutscene right before you fight him, that's what bothered me. The fact that nobody likes the unskippable cutscenes before a difficult boss. For instance, Final Fantasy X with Seymour on the mountain. fuck that entire thing. Oh my god, I can quote that cutscene. Like, when I see that cutscene, I can just say it along with the characters because I have it practically memorized. But yeah, that was the one boss that I used to fucking Seymour. Fuck Seymour. Yeah, I'm sure if you've played the game, I'm sure you know which Seymour fight I'm talking about. The one that was on Mount Gagazet. And I think that one's the most notorious amongst the Final Fantasy X games as well. But yeah, Kraken was the boss that was the only boss that I really had any issue with. Just because of the fact that there was the long cutscene where you have to take the boat and you have to go, and like the guy gets seasick halfway through and he's just like, okay, give me a minute. And it's like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Please. Please! And then there's the part in the game, this is unrelated, but I just thought of it. Like the part in the game where there's the waterfall, and for the password you literally have to like stand there and wait for 3 minutes. I wasn't sure if the game was being serious or not, but it was. Like you literally it's like just drop the controller and wait for 3 minutes. And I was just sitting there like, hi guys. How you doing? How's the weather? But yeah, there's some pretty good puzzles in that game. Like, it was never anything too difficult, and if you got confused, there was always the hint guy, you know. But, there wasn't anything overly obscure well, there might have been one or two things that were really obscure, but everything else was pretty straightforward for how to progress through the game. Which is nice because when I think about old retro games, I always think about like there's no direction on what you're supposed to do. Like for the first Final Fantasy game, I used a guide for it because I had no idea what I was doing. Like I didn't know where to go. There's barely any indication of where to go. Things like that, you know. But no, Earthbound did a really good job of not being like that. Okay. So that's almost everything I wanted to mention, but the last thing was something that I actually discovered last night when I went and like just looked over the soundtrack and like listened to it some more because it's a really good soundtrack. And it was something that I noticed over the course of the game, but I wasn't sure. Like, I was like, is this a thing or not? But then when I looked at the soundtrack and I looked at the titles for the battle themes, I was like, oh, that is something that is happening. And that is that, there's a lot of different battle themes. And they correspond to the different monsters in the game. Damn. I looked at it and I was like, wow. I love the variation. I love the variation in battle themes in Earthbound a lot. Hi, Jamie. Quite a few tracks in the game based off of other songs. That's really cool. I noticed that there was some tracks that also, like, I think it was Belch's battle theme that was a slowed down version of another battle theme. You're actually here now? Hi! Let me find the battle particularly because I want to talk a little bit about because something that I really love with games is when they have good music. If a game is jeez, I'm about Game of Thrones. Yeah. We were talking about unnecessary deaths in media for the shock value and how I fucking hate that. But yeah, the enemies, they have um their different battle themes. I love the variation, and when it comes to soundtracks, um when a game has a good soundtrack, I fucking live for that. That's part of why I love the Toho games, Toho Project, as much as I do, is because the music is fucking banger. And I love video game music in general. By no means am I a musical expert. It's not something I ever learned, even in college or anything. Like, I don't even know how to play an instrument. Except, well, I kind of know how to play the recorder from when we had to do that back in 6th grade, but you know. Fucking banger! Anyway, so the battle themes, there's battle against a weak opponent, which is like the enemies that you encounter at like the very beginning of the game. Fuck, I have to uncross my legs again. Okay, thanks. I'm out of tea, so I'm switching to water. Thanks for the hug. Oh, I'm sorry the bird's not here. I don't have that. I don't have it set up for. I don't have it set up for this scene. I'm sorry. Anyway, there's battle against a weak opponent, which is like the stuff you encounter in the beginning of the game. There's battle against a weird opponent, which is like the plants and like that tree that explodes that I hate that fucking tree that explodes, man. There's battle against a mobile opponent, unsettling opponent, which is like the zombies and stuff like that, like when we were in Threed and we were fighting the zombies. Tree is rude as fuck. It is! It just explodes! And so does, what is it, the smiley spheres? The spheres with the smile on them? They're, the spheres that are just like, I'm gonna blow up and kill you. And one of the robots does that too. Yeah, the power robot. Oh, fuck that robot. God. There's a battle theme that's just called New Age Retro Hippie, which is like the theme that plays specifically when you fight the fucking hippies, and I think when you also fight like Frank or Everdread or something. There's themes specifically for the Guardians of the Sanctuaries. There's the theme for fighting the aliens, for Gigas' minions. There's specifically a theme for Belch, for some reason. There's a specific theme for the Kraken, which is also used for one of the Sanctuary Guardians. There's Otherworldly Foe, which is when you battle Starman Jr., Carpainter, the Evil Statue, Clumsy Robot, and the Nightmare, when you battle the Nightmare. Fuck. No, no music overlapping. There's the first final boss theme, which is pretty epic. Like, that fucking guitar, like, towards the middle of it, like, I was jamming. I was like, yeah, let's go! Let's go! And then you get into Gigas' themes, and you're just like, I wanna go home now. I want my mommy. Because Gigas is just so freaky. And he has 3 themes for his 3 phases. And they just keep getting more and more chaotic, and they're unsettling, and Just thinking about him like freaks me out. The first theme with Pokey, absolutely, that is awesome. That was one of my favorites in the game. One Final Fantasy had the best final battle music. That's probably Final Fantasy X with the against, well, I don't want to spoil other games, but Final Fantasy X is the one that you're thinking of. I'm trying not to spoil, like, it's a spoiler heavy specifically for Earthbound, because I'm talking about, like, Gigas and stuff like that. And how Gigas is terrifying. Let's see, is there anything else about Earthbound that you guys want to talk about, or reflect on, or bring up, or any questions that you have for me as far as what I thought about Earthbound, or specific parts of it, or anything? You cannot grasp the true form of Gigas' attack. That scares me. God. He's so big and powerful that he's literally not in control of himself, and you can't just... You don't know how he's attacking, and it's scary. I just wanted that fight to be over. It's like, oh god. But, trying to think if there's, like, anything else. Well, I guess we can touch on, like, will I be playing Earthbound Beginnings? Is that... I know that was released on Nintendo Switch Online. Is that free, or does that require an additional fee? Like, is it included with the online membership? Because I am definitely thinking about it. But I don't know anything about Earthbound Beginnings. I mean, I barely knew anything about Earthbound going into this. I know that they, for their direct, they added, I can even look right now, my Switch is right here. But yeah, I mean, I barely knew anything about Earthbound going into it. I had watched a streamer play, like... Honestly, I watched a streamer play, like, towards the very end of the game. Like, I saw Gigas. But it didn't really hit me just how fucking scary he is until I actually played through it myself. Earthbound is now available for Switch. I think it looks like... It looks like I could... Yeah. I could play, It looks like it doesn't require any additional memberships, you just have to be on Nintendo Switch Online. So I could play it. Why was I looking something up? I was typing into Google and then... Mother 3 is the one that I've heard a lot about, and I don't know if that actually has an English release or not. I don't think it does it? But I've heard that that is, like, really good. No, it doesn't have an official release. I think that's what people were getting upset about with the Nintendo Direct, was the fact that it's like, hey, look, we released Earthbound Beginnings and Earthbound. Mother 3? What are you talking about? We don't have anything about that. Like, that's what upset people, because it's like, really? Also Kirby. Carby. But anyway. Yeah. Carby. Carby. I love the kids. I love Ness, I love Paula, Jeff. I even love Pooh. Even though I don't like his name very much. But I guess that's just part of the humor of the game. And, you know, the game's sense of humor is like, it's really good. The game's really funny and goofy, and I love it. Um, and I love the kids, and like when it says at the end that you're praying for them, I was like, fuck yeah, I am. Like, actually, like, for real, because I love them and I just want them to be safe, and, you know, they're literal kids. Like, Ness is 13, Paula is 11, and then I think Jeff is also 13, then I don't know how old who is. Yeah, imagine playing this game when you were a kid. Gigas would have fucking traumatized me, man. I also probably would not have made it through the game as a kid because I probably would get stuck somewhere. But yeah, playing through the game, it's rated E too. It's like playing through that whole game and then as a kid and getting up to Gigas, it's like, yep, you're gonna have nightmares and be traumatized. But I heard from somewhere that Gigas is actually Itoi's like childhood trauma or something, or is that's what he was traumatized by a certain movie and he wanted people to experience what he experienced by creating Gigas. It was a scene he witnessed in a film as a kid. Well, yeah, I mean, oh boy. And the stuff that Gigas says, like, it hurts or it feels good. It's just like adds to the creepiness. Gigas just flat out makes a fantastic, like, final villain, like boss, antagonist. Like, really, he really does. Like, that's why I just rambled on for like half the time I was rambling, like, was about him. Ness. Ah! Oh god. Please. 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 But yeah, I do love the kids. I almost wish they had more voice lines. A little. They had a good, like, I feel like Paula didn't really have that much character development over the course of the game. Like, Ness is obvious. Like, you know, he's the kid going through this. He has the whole Magicant thing as a big, like, development point for him. You have Jeff, and his dad, who he doesn't even refer to as his dad in the beginning. He's just like, oh yeah, that's my father, but he doesn't call him dad or anything. Then he calls him dad at the end. And then Pooh, also doesn't have a lot of development. Like, he trains and he gets power, but his character doesn't really get much development. I just, you know, there's a part of me that wishes there was a little bit more focus on them. Because pretty much all of the focus was on Ness. I do wish that the other characters had gotten a little bit more attention. And the characters in general for the game are also very, memorable. Like, when we saw Belch again in the fucking swamp, I was just like, really? You're back? Again? Sir? What the fuck? I hate you. Please die. And then seeing all the characters at the end praying for the kids, you know? And then oh yeah, Apollo is the key to defeating Gigas. Yeah. Because of Paula's prayer. That is true. That's kind of funny. It's like Ness gets super powered up, but then it turns out that the prayer is what's needed to actually defeat Gigas. That's kind of funny. You know, I never even mentioned, like, one of the more surreal parts of the game, which was Moonside. That section of the game I thoroughly didn't expect. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what? That entire area was confusing. I loved the design of it, though. I loved the neon lights and everything. Like, it really popped against the black background. It was really pretty. Very strange. Some of the enemies were very, like, the fucking dolly clock. Like, what? But Moonside's whole sequence was not long enough, I think. Did a song about Earthbound? What if Earthbound had lyrics? Something like, oh god, get Gigas away from me. I want to go cry in a corner. I've heard that name, but I don't watch that guy, but I have heard the name before. Oh yeah, Moonside was really cool. I do wish it was longer. And then the fact at the end that it was just a hallucination, and the NPC you talked to right after was like, you were wandering around the warehouse with like a dazed look on your face. And it's just like, what the fuck were we on? That cracked me up. Because then I thought, I was like, what were we fighting? It's like, what? What were we talking to? That mouse has seen some things. And then there was the mouse in the department store that was like, I feel like the lights are gonna turn off. And then they do, and then Paula gets kidnapped and you go back down the stairs and the mouse was like, oh yeah, that's probably because I like chewed through the wires earlier. It's like, are you serious? I really liked the fact that you could talk to the animals, like the dog and the mice. But the cats, like, I don't remember actually talking to any of the cats. They all just went, meow, and that was it. I really like the exit mice too, they were really cute. Like, please take my son along. He will help you get out of a dungeon if you get lost. I was like, thank you, I will take good care of your son, I promise. I wanted to give back the son at the end of the game because it's like I don't need him anymore, but I couldn't. Yeah, the cats are normal, but all the maybe it's just a cat thing. I think it's just a cat thing. I have a cat. You know, knowing cats, it's cats. Let's see. Anything else? Uh, the ending. Oh my god. When the ending went and it was like you had the knocking at the door again, I was like, did I accidentally press new game? But it was just Pokey's brother coming in and being like, yeah, he's taunting you. And fucking Pokey. Fuck him. He's like, we'll always be best friends. I lied. Just like, wow. You're such a brat. Fuck Pokey. What else? Earthbound is definitely a good example of how graphics are not the end-all be-all for a game. Like, you know, a lot of games nowadays are like... A lot of people judge video games nowadays by graphics and like how realistic they are, and it's just like, you know, sometimes simple is best. Simple or cartoony, you know, things like that. And I don't know about other people, but I love like the pixel art style in RPGs. It's like I've tried doing pixel art, it's a whole nother thing. Gameplay is great, everything else is secondary. I could argue about like that could you could argue about that. And that was something that was actually brought up in one of my game design classes, was this like pie chart of like, what was it, like gameplay, graphics, and what was the third piece? I don't know if it was narrative. Gameplay, graphics, and narrative, which is like the story. And how they're all kind of equally important. Because even if a game plays well, if it looks like shit, then people aren't going to be inclined to play it. If a game looks really good and plays really well, but the story really sucks, you know, that's also kind of bad. And then obviously, if the graphics are good and the narrative and the story's really good, but the gameplay is awful, then there is a lot of people that say like gameplay is the most important thing, and like, yeah, like I can see why you would think that, but you know, the graphics and the story definitely do play a really big part. It's one of those things that can like make or break a really good game. And when all three of those things work together fantastically, then you really have a masterpiece on your hands. And I would say, in Earthbound's case, all three of them are fantastic. Because it has its own quirky, pixelated art style. Like, you know, you've seen the enemy designs. You know, the game is pretty. Pixel art is like a whole nother beast. I've tried doing it, it's really difficult. trying to convey things in pixels is tough. The story of Earthbound obviously is really, really good. The gameplay is a lot of fun. Like, this definitely has all three pieces of that pie all working together very well. And the soundtrack and the sound design also work well. Like, a truly great game is where all of the aspects of the game kind of work together in harmony. And all, you know, yeah. I don't know what else I was gonna say, because that's really all that I needed to say. But that's what, you know, separates, like, games that are okay or good from, like, the really great, like, masterpieces, is when you have every little bit of the game working together. Like Okami, for instance. Everything about Okami is very, like, Japanese. Like, the graphics are reminiscent of, like, those old paintings. The music uses Japanese instruments. The narrative is very focused on the mythology, you know, and everything in Okami works together really well, and that's what makes it my favorite game ever, is because every little bit of it, down to the UI, the sounds that play when you, like, you know, do something really basic, everything drives that theme that they're going for of, you know, this old style Japanese mythological type game where you play as a goddess. And I think Earthbound definitely also, every little piece of Earthbound drives that sort of kind of quirkiness, the sense of humor, music, the sounds, the characters, the writing, the graphics, you know, the way things are designed, like the enemies, and the fact that it's, like, almost isometric. Like, the foreside is, like, isometric. You know, the everything. Yeah, Earthbound's just really good. And I'm really glad that I took the time to ramble about it for almost 2 hours, because honestly, like, I love this game. Really did. And I wish I had played it. I wish I had played it, like, you know, a while ago. Yeah, it's definitely something I would play again. It's definitely up there, and, like, it's easily made, like, you know, my top favorite games. And it's not just because I really love RPGs. It took some getting used to, because it was quite a bit different from... It was a bit different from Final Fantasy, for sure. Like, definitely a lot different in terms of tone and story, and the battle system was, even though it was turn-based, it had the rolling HP meters and everything. But it was really good. And yeah, I think I'm done with that, unless anybody else has anything to bring up. Like, I think I pretty much said my piece.